So often I'm being asked, why do I write? Uh, there isn't any particular answer, but I thought let's share my views. One of the things that I have realized over the years is that many of my friends, if not all of my friends, they don't even think about the country. They just only think about themselves, their family, and their own social status, how to maintain the social status. And of course, if you ask me, I have to be honest, is that of course I do belong to high up in the hierarchy, but going beyond the class and thinking about the classless society, not classless, at least a society which wouldn't have very much class hierarchy. That's something what I've always thought about, and this is where I started writing, and this is where I started doing my activism. Is that if we could just find out a society, for example, the society where I live here, we don't have the hierarchy. It doesn't matter whether you live in the high up in the hierarchy, like you are a minister or you are a very high official or university teacher, or you're just a labor or something. There isn't any hierarchy. You will get paid, well paid. At least you will have enough money to live your life, to lead your life. And at the same time, you can just sit together. Doesn't matter which class you belong, and you can discuss and everything. So there isn't that kind of class that you can see. I mean, of course, class would still be there. There will be higher class. There will be rich society, rich people, poor people. But at least people should have the basic rights. That's where I started writing, because I think that doesn't matter whether we have rich people or poor people. They should all have at least the basic rights. And you know what? Often we are being criticized. Why are we writing this way or that way? Because whatever we write, it goes against a party or a group of people. It would always happen, because if you start writing about society or politics or political, understanding, this is going to happen. And that's where I think, our school of thought needs to be changed, because that's where we are being attacked. If something goes against a party or a group of people, they will come and tag us to another, group of people. I can tell you one thing is that I don't belong to any political party, and I will never, and I don't belong to any group or association, anything as such, because, I'm just only an individual, and there are individuals like us who have been thinking about this society, who would like to have some kind of change in our society and the country, and yet at the end of the day, we feel like we are being betrayed, or there isn't anything happening that can change our society, and the members of the public, what we call subaltern people, the people, marginalized people, they will get their rights. You see, the fact is, why would I write? I have everything. I'm very well off, and many people would probably dream of coming to, the place where I am, or the society where I belong, or the class where I really belong. But yet, going beyond that class of the society and to think about everybody is something what I think very difficult, because most of the people don't really think like that. And yet we've been thinking about it. And I would kindly please ask and request to my readers, I love all of you, doesn't matter which school of thought you belong, which political party you belong, it doesn't matter for me, because I write for everybody. I write for your rights. I write for your dignity. So I would kindly ask all of you, please don't tag us. Don't give us a label like we belong to a party or we belong to a group of people. No, we don't. And I'm saying it right away here. And I've been writing about it, and yet we used to hear these things. And what happens is that this kind of comments and opinions, if I could say that so, make us demotivated not to write, not to do the activism. And that's how many people stop. And if you are imposing us to get stopped, what would happen is that you wouldn't find any people to talk about your rights at some point. So please stop this kind of thing. Labeling or tagging, whichever way you call it, is not a proper culture that we should follow. And we were expecting, at least after July 2024, that this kind of thing wouldn't happen anymore. But right after that, we saw and we have been observing that this is something was happening. And I personally would expect, because I don't have any political parties, any kind of association with any group, even any kind of association with any kind of institution or organization back in Bangladesh. So I'm just an individual who's been trying to contribute whichever way I can to make a little bit of change. I just hope you will understand it and it will make sense. Thank you, and bye-bye.